come on, what's in the box? What's in the fucking box? I don't know the answer to that question, actually. Hold on. Oh, looks like we got a random unboxing video here, impromptu. Holy shit. Oh. You don't want to know what's in there. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, and what do you know? Here we are, the David Fincher series. That's right, I am so excited to tackle another retro series of films with you guys in the build-up to a new film. And I'm gonna watch every single one of David Fincher's directorial credits in the build-up to Mank, which will be released on Netflix on December 4th. I'm super excited to check that one out. But here we go. First on the docket, not counting Alien 3, by the way, because... I mean, who would count Alien 3? But in all seriousness, today's topic is Seven, or Sis-Sevenin, if you're a literal thinker like me. When retiring police detective William Somerset, played by Morgan Freeman, tackles a final case with the aid of newly transferred David Mills, played by Brad Pitt, they discover a number of elaborate and grisly murders. And they soon realize that they are dealing with a serial killer, played here by Kevin Spacey, who's targeting people he thinks represent one of the 7 deadly sins. So do you want to talk about some polarizing cinema, or do you guys want to talk about some fucking polarizing cinema? Now, I have talked to a lot of people in the build-up to this most recent rewatch, especially a lot of people in my personal life, and I noticed that there's a lot of people who just cannot stomach this movie for the life of them, which is totally fine. I'm not gonna knock their opinions, because it's subjective, of course, but this is going to be a weird analogy. Imagine going to a fast food chain. Just say, for the purposes of this explanation, say you go to Burger King, for example. And one night you go to Burger King and it just does not sit with your stomach well at all, and it ends up giving you food poisoning. Now, usually if a person gets food poisoning after going to a fast food place, what do? The customer usually does not give said chain any of their money anymore, because basically they made their tummy hurt. Seven, I would say, is one of those movies that gives people this quote-unquote food poisoning. Like, they watch it once, and it makes their stomachs churn just way too damn much for them. So they watch the movie once through, and they're like, that's enough. But then you also run into people like me, who actually thinks that Seven is a masterpiece. Now granted, this isn't a film that I tend to rewatch a lot, but as a critic, I cannot ignore the prowess that David Fincher has here. Just because the subject matter is too disturbing, I just cannot ignore how well made Seven is. The direction? Absolutely superb. And one thing that I actually tended to notice on this rewatch is that Fincher really has an affinity for the color red. And you see it in the background a lot of these shots and this production design overall. There's a lot of blood everywhere. Oh my gosh, this movie is very rated R. But it is a very gross feeling atmosphere within Seven, and I think the color red really helps accentuate that point, or that atmosphere that he's trying to develop. How about the screenplay by Andrew Kevin Walker? Absolutely fantastic. Now, there's one detail that I think tends to be glossed over when people look at Seven, and I think it's actually fairly simple. It's the premise. I realize I just gave you a plot summary near the beginning of the video, but here's the thing. This film is written to take place over the course of a week. One murder every day of the week. How many days are in a week? 7. 7 deadly sins for 7 days of the week. It's a simple little detail, and it's a tiny little detail, but I think this is just a brilliant way to structure your movie. How about the editing? Oh my gosh, the editing. So precise and so pristine. It is truly a marvel to behold, and everybody who's reviewed Seven, I'm sure, has said something positive about this editing, so I don't really think I have much new to add here, but it's glorious. Just the way they edit around the actors and their environment. It's also the way the actors sell certain things that aren't shown to the audience. And this is especially true during that climax, which I'll certainly talk about later. But you'll notice that David Fincher is very methodical in what images he decides to show us and which ones he doesn't. He basically leaves some of this imagery up to our interpretation. How grisly is this? Even though he doesn't show it to us, we still know it's there, and that's where the fear factor comes in. Now, I mentioned earlier the acting and the performances. Let's just get into that, because man, oh man, these are all just phenomenal. Especially the two leading performances by Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. They are just so damn awesome together here. Morgan Freeman as Detective Somerset is definitely the one with all the ideas. He's the one whose gears seem to be turning a lot more, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and he's definitely the more level-headed of the duo. And Freeman, as usual, portrays that brilliantly. Brad Pitt as Detective Mills, on the other hand, absolutely more headstrong. He feels like the way more impulsive one, and if you set him off, he will mess you up. I would honestly argue that this is one of Brad Pitt's best roles, and he's done a lot of them. Brad Pitt was great here. Gwyneth Paltrow is also here as Detective Mills' wife. She's really great in the film. I mean, everybody's performances. Ermey, my goodness, the guy from Full Metal Jacket. He's not a drill sergeant here, but he proves with this performance that he was capable of roles offering him tons of range. And lastly, yes, I do have to talk about Kevin Spacey, even though he is... I realize who he is in reality, but we're not here to talk about that. Kevin Spacey in this film, so effortless. And I honestly think the way he delivers his lines, it paints his character not only as this sick, demented freak, but honestly, this delivery is perfect because it portrays that this character isn't even really having to try in this situation. It really accentuates the control he has over both of these detectives' minds. And that in itself, the mind games behind Seven, that's scary as f***. But maybe perhaps my biggest praise that I can give Seven is that there's honestly a little bit of everything. Like, it's almost to the point where people can't exactly pinpoint one genre as to what Seven is. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, some would classify this as a pure horror film, and honestly, if you said that, I wouldn't have much to argue. This imagery that David Fincher is showing us, they are stomach-churning. They are nightmare-inducing, and they are damn horrifying. And there's also some that would classify this as a crime drama, which is the more obvious pick. But to me, Seven, at its core, is a mystery. I find it the most gruesome, bloody whodunit that you will ever find. Now, granted, once we're introduced to Kevin Spacey's character, the mystery intrigue about who is committing all these murders, that's all gone. But the thing is, I was still really compelled even after it was revealed who was killing all these people. I was compelled by the mystery leading up to that reveal, and I was also even more compelled by the ramifications of this reveal. How will these characters react to this? And I think Seven does a masterful job at providing the audience a really rare mystery. Also, yeah, I gotta talk about it. That damn climax. We all know what's in the damn box. When I first watched Seven, I had no clue what was in that box. But once it was revealed through this icy sharp dialogue, my jaw was on the floor. And my jaw dropped even harder on this rewatch. It is still that shocking. And it's not only the reveal, but it's also the way Morgan Freeman sells that moment. It is absolutely spectacular. Brad Pitt's famous reaction also excellent. I mean, like I said, there's almost nothing wrong with this movie. I think it's a masterpiece. If I did have to nitpick one thing though, I will say that the rewatchability factor isn't as high for this movie as it is for some of Fincher's other works, which we'll talk about later. Because like I've said, this is some hefty subject matter. It's not for the faint of heart. And I can understand why people aren't necessarily gravitating towards this film because yeah, it is gruesome. But you know what? I'm honestly not going to downgrade the film for it because I've still rewatched the film a handful of times since that first watch I had. Because it is just too compelling of a narrative and too compelling of a mystery for me to turn away from. My lord, guys, this was an excellent first outing in this series. David Fincher showed that he was here to stay. I'm going to give Seven its well-deserved A+. And again, I totally understand if people are not gravitating towards this film. It's not going to be for everybody. But just like Silence of the Lambs, just like The Exorcist, both of which I've previously reviewed here, Seven similarly has a lot of really gruesome material. But I just cannot ignore the prowess that David Fincher has. But have you guys seen Seven? Do you guys enjoy it? Do you not? Is it too much for you? I would love to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments section below. I would love to discuss them with you further. And hey, if you guys are enjoying my content so far and you guys want to see more from me, if you guys are new here, welcome. Please consider hitting that subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can, so that way you guys can stay in the loop anytime I upload a video here. And please be sure to leave a thumbs up on this video on your way out if you enjoyed it also. I'd really appreciate that. You guys are so awesome. Seriously. Thank you all so much for your support of the channel up to this point. It really does mean the world. And look out for more exciting content coming to the channel very soon, including the very next installment in the Fincher series, The Game. Thank you so much again for the support, y'all. With all that being said, back talk, commence!